Hey guys, well, I'm back at my drip system again. What I did was I replaced the manual timer that I had on this for the last 2 or 3 years and put an automatic timer on. And this allows me to just set it and walk away. And when I showed my, I'll put a link below to the complete installation guide to installing a drip system in raised beds. But I had a lot of people say, why do you put a manual timer on here? You went through all that problem. Well, here's the deal. I can understand why some people would want to use manual timers. If you live in an area that's not consistent, like 1 week it'll rain 3 days and then the next week it won't even rain and then the next week it rains 1 day and then you just can't be consistent with your watering, so you can never really set your timer to know when to water. Now, here in Southern Oregon, it's pretty much hot and dry almost all summer long. Very rarely rains. So I can pretty much set this and know that I'm going to get consistent watering every week. So I'll set my frequency and the runtime and it'll do fine. So like I say though, I can understand why some people would want to use, and I installed the manual timer because number one, they're inexpensive, and number two, I'm out here anyways, and so I would just every couple of days just turn it on and let it run for a certain amount of time. But I decided I've got so many raised beds now and so much going on out here that I needed to automate at least some of this. So this is going to automate my raised beds with my grape arbor here and the raised beds or the boxes over there with my blueberries, and I showed that in my last video. So anyways, a lot of people have said that they're very difficult to set, and they're really not if you understand what's kind of going on here. They're really easy. Don't let the 3 dials kind of scare you. One of them is a manual water dial and a rain delay. And one dial is your frequency and one is your runtime. I'll bring you in closer to show you exactly how to set this. But the first thing that you want to need to do is figure out how often you want it to run, and then how long you want it to run, and those two things, and then it's a walk in the park. So let me bring you in closer and show you exactly how to set one of these. Okay, I apologize for the wind chimes going. The wind just kicked up anyways. But anyway, so the first thing that you want to do is figure out how often you want this to run. Now the left dial here is your hours. If you want it to run every hour, then I can't imagine why anybody would, but you can set this to 1 hour, and this will kick on every hour, every 2 hours, all the way around to 24 hours, which is every day, then 48 hours, 2 days, 72 hours, every 3 days, and then it has a spot here for every week, so if you want it to run weekly. Now here's the kicker. Before you set this, figure out the time of day, because when I set this, let's say I set it like right now, it's say 2 o'clock. So I want to set this every 24 hours to go off. The trick is that when I program this, I want to program it at the time I want it to go off. In other words, it's 2 o'clock now. 24 hours from now, it'll come on at 2 o'clock again. So if I want it to come on at 8 a.m., then don't program this until 8 a.m. because once you set this dial, it'll go off at 8 a.m. every 48 hours, every 72 hours. I hope I'm making myself clear on that. I hope I'm not hope I'm not confusing you. So anyways, it's going to go off at 2 o'clock roughly every 48 or 72 hours. I'm going to set this every 3 days. And then so you figure out your frequency, which is every 3 days. Now, if you live in a seriously hot zone, you might want to go down to every 2 days or every day. But I'm going to set it at every 3 days, and then I'm going to set how long I want it to run. So I'm going to let this thing run every 2 hours, okay? Now, on my boxes over there, I have 2 gallon per hour emitters. So if I let this run for 2 hours, it's going to give 4 gallons of water to every one of those plants that has an emitter on it. And I've popped in 1 gallon per hour emitters on my grapes, in my grape arbor, because they are in a cooler place and they don't need as much water. They just seem to do a lot better in those tall raised beds that I have, and they just don't need as much water. So this is going to go off every 3 days. It's going to water for 2 hours, And then if I want to bypass this, let's say I come through, I have a manual timer up here. If I come through and say, you know what, I'm going to give them, let's say 10 minutes of water right now. So I turn this to 10 minutes, and all of a sudden after about 10 seconds, I think you could hear that come on. So what this is going to do, it's going to allow this to run it's going to allow it to run 10 minutes. And then when it's done, it'll default back to the normal settings I have here. So this is only a manual bypass. Now let's say that all of a sudden we get a bunch of heavy rain, and you don't want this to kick on this today. And so what you do is, let's say it rained really heavily, so I'm going to say, okay, let's delay this timer for 48 hours. So I turn the dial to 48. And what that will do is, for 2 days, it'll delay the settings down here. And so that's what the rain delay is for. We get very little rain, so I can't imagine I'm going to be using that much. But anyways, that's how you program this thing. It's really simple. It's a walk in the park, easy peasy. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and post them below, or even comments. Post them in a comment below. But I forgot to mention, you got to put some AA batteries in this thing. But that's pretty much self-explanatory. So I put a link below to where you can go out and get this timer here. And because I think this is, to me, it's one of the most inexpensive ones I've seen, and very easy to program. So there it is. There's my new automatic water timer for my raised beds and my grow boxes. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch y'all later.